hello, welcome. Hello, Fernanda Paiva, and thank you for being here and for accepting my invitation. How was your day today? I ask this because you just did another interview before, so are you a little
Mm.
tired or how do you feel?
No, I feel good actually.
Just
Thank you so much for the invitation.
I thank you.
It's great. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's a pleasure. Always
It's
a chance to talk about astrology. For me,
absolutely, it's
is
always, you see, this is the big plus because every time I'm under a kind of stress and I need to talk in English, even if I'm using this language, not in every day, but almost, I am still under a kind of pressure. But when I think at
yeah,
astrology, I relax instantly. So this
yeah.
is
It's like
something
a
what we
real
love.
treat.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
I, I,
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I would like to introduce you to my public because you are the first time here,
Sure.
and I will do just a very small introduction about you. So, you, Fernanda, it's originally from Brazil, but has been living in the UK for the last 14 years. And she's a teacher, a practicing astrologer with a BA. It's a bachelor degree. Am I saying okay? In
Yeah,
history?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
this is. And she acquired her astrology certificate with distinction at the London School of Astrology. And by the way, congratulations, because this is something really wonderful. And she
Thank
has
you.
been published by Flair UK, IAM Infinity magazine, the AA Journal, and at the Astrodienst website. The Romanian people, they know very well this place, and this is again
Mm.
something wow. And she is currently working on her thesis for the Master of Arts, MA, in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology at the University of Wales. I would say, wow, this is quite impressive.
Well, it's just
It's a
like
long
pure
road.
obsession. That's like yeah, it's like astrology is just an obsession, and it's just like never ending, and it's so exciting, and there's so much to learn and to
Yes.
yeah, it's just yeah, it's a passion.
And I think it was a
Yeah.
huge change for you because you're coming from Brazil. And I know
Mm.
only stories about these places. I never had the chance to go there. So how do you feel now? Since probably, yes, now it's different because you live here since many years in Europe. But I guess
Mm.
you are still
Mm.
going and you mix these two worlds, or
Mm.
how is it?
Yeah, I think there's a funny thing that happens when you leave your place, like you leave the country that you were born
Hmm.
behind. You kind of become a little bit like homeless in a sense of like the place that you're living for a while feels like home, but the place that that you were raised and you grew up is still kind of a home as well, and it just
Yes.
becomes a bit of a um, the world becomes a little bit enlarged, and
Hmm.
yet I think we always struggle a little bit with the sense of belonging because we belong to a few different places.
I
We don't have a
understand you
full
better
sense
than
of
you believe.
belonging.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have
but
the same, yeah.
only someone who is in the same position like us, they can understand when we describe this.
Mm,
Because when you just
mm,
travel, you don't feel in detail this kind of confusion. You know very well who you are,
mm,
but I guess the
mm.
connection with the place where you live, it's another story. And
Yeah,
by the way, where do
yeah,
you feel
exactly.
really home? Where do you
Yeah,
feel?
exactly. I mean, I feel that's the thing. I think I feel at home in a few different places because
Hmm.
obviously Brazil and São Paulo, which is where I'm from, still feels like home. It's still familiar.
Hmm.
So it's not a home as a place that I want to move back to permanently, but I do like to live there for a few months. Be there
Yeah.
for 4, 5, 6 months. That's kind of nice. And I'm just like beginning a digital nomad life, so I guess a lot of different places will become a home for for a
Absolutely.
little while as well. And so,
Ah,
but London obviously has a very strong home feeling to me because I lived here for many years.
mhm.
England in general, I guess, because I've lived in other places in England as well, and yeah,
Splendid.
yeah.
Yeah, but on the same time, you have the chance to meet very interesting people. And this is
Mm,
giving you, I think, a very, very good feedback about how we function. I'm, I'm saying very often we are all different, but on the same time, all the same. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we have similarities, isn't it?
Hmm.
Like basic similarities as human beings. But yes, I'm very excited. I mean, I've been talking about settling down, but I never, I can never settle. I
No.
always I get a bit bored. It's like, oh, okay, nice. I got a home finally. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna settle a bit, and then I'm like,
Mm.
actually,
I would
I'm gonna go somewhere else.
I would ask you now, naturally, do you have something in your chart who is telling more about this desire to travel and to move from a place to
Mm,
another, or
mm.
no?
Yeah, sure. I
You
mean,
have.
yeah, definitely. I think the moon is the ruler of my ninth house.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't really have any planets there, but I also have Mars Uranus conjoined in the first house in Sagittarius.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah, you
so I
see,
guess that's where
yeah.
it's coming from. I also have South Node in Sag. Yeah, yeah,
Wonderful. I think it's wonderful.
yeah.
And I think you were
Mm.
not very happy during 2020, 2022. Am I saying wrong now because of the pandemic and
Well,
we
I still moved. I still moved there, and I still traveled.
God.
2020 when the pandemic happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like a week before the pandemic happened, I came back from Brazil. So I was 6 months in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I came back to the UK. I decided to move to Brighton, which I've never lived before, like on the coast
Mm-hmm.
in the UK. So I literally moved to Brighton, and then the pandemic, the lockdown happened in March 2020. So I was 6 months in Brighton, and then I went back to Brazil, and then I came back to London as well. Like I still moved. I didn't I didn't really get stranded for too long.
All the friends, they started to ask me around here in Germany, and especially in Germany, we don't have a beautiful weather. I think in London probably it's the same, or in England.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know
it's
how.
even worse. I think
And
it's even worse.
they are effectively happy now because they can travel and they can finally go far away where it's sunny and it's. And I said, use wise this time because nobody knows what's coming, starting with October. So I don't want to say now bad things. We've met today. First of all, I would like to say that on the website where you study now, I speak about the University of Wales. I discovered something very cute. We are all creatures of the universe. Every atom in our bodies has passed through 3 stars. We are literally stardust. I like a lot this. And I want to ask you, how do you feel studying cultural astronomy? This I find extraordinarily difficult. And I think it's something very, very good to know when you want to become an astrologer, which you are, and to combine this level of info. I think it's fantastic. How is it?
Well, I mean, it's a real treat. It's like a real pleasure, and I find, I guess, because I'm highly Uranian, I find it really difficult to do things I don't want to do. Like, things as a strategy of like, okay, I'm gonna do masters in business, so then I can open my business in 5 years, because I wouldn't feel interested in the program, and I wouldn't want to, study any of that. So that MA program was just, it's just amazing. I mean, if anyone is considering, it's just, I couldn't recommend highly enough. Also, it's like one thing that needs to be clear as well, and I think I saw Nicholas Campion talking about it when they created the program. They had, because astrology has such a stigma in academia, they had to create a kind of a name that would be acceptable in academia. So cultural astronomy is literally cultural uses of the sky. So whereas astronomy itself would be more connected with the physics and the mathematics and how to calculate things and what kind of composition the planets are, cultural astronomy is more like sci-fi, paintings, any kind of manifestation of our different uses of the sky. So not everyone in that MA is interested in astrology. A lot of people don't even know much about they're interested, for instance, in archaeoastronomy, so astronomy used in archaeology, so all those old stones and how they were aligned in relation to the planets as well. And so it's basically
fascinating, I think.
Everything in our relationship to the sky. So if you're interested in the sky, then that's the MA for you.
These artistic skills, which I'm absolutely sure you are blessed with, do you feel them more activated now? I will ask probably something absolutely spontaneous and stupid and whatever, but I feel the need to ask you this. Do you feel more activated on this field since the famous conjunction between Jupiter and Neptune happened? How do you
I said, no, that's
feel?
not a stupid question at all. I think that's a good question.
How?
And I think I do feel more inspired.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had the space to express that. So I think I do draw a bit when it comes to, I do play a tiny bit of ukulele. I'm not very good at playing music, but I do draw a little, and pastels and stuff like that, but I haven't drew much. But I'm definitely more inspired. I feel like that reality has been added another layer somehow with this, basically with this cosmic weather that we're sort of navigating now together, all of us. I do feel more inspired, more open somehow.
I'm asking you this with a reason, because I'm an actress and I am not doing this. And since a few weeks, I feel like I can't explain. I just want to go on a stage somewhere. I feel the need to sing, to talk about poetry, about, oh my God, my husband is watching me and say, are you okay? Everything is fine with you. And that's why I'm asking you, because it's impossible to not give life to these needs, to these energies, because they are deep down inside of us. And if we have them, they ask, they beg us to put them out.
Yeah, be expressed.
Yes,
definitely.
Yes.
I mean, I feel what's manifesting in my life is more creativity in my work. So definitely, I mean, the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction happened in my 5th house, and so
wonderful.
I really feel more free to express myself in my work. So considering astrology as a form of art as well, then that's definitely kind of channeled in that side as well, like more free and more, more excited to to that level of expression.
A normal question which I have for each of my guests is connected with why astrology. Can you tell me your history about how you how you discovered astrology, and when did you realize that you are attracted by this? And
yeah, sure.
Please.
I can't even remember when was the first time that I came across astrology. So I was very young. It was my childhood, really. I remember, for example, that my cartoons and the things I used to love watching had already planets involved, or the Knights of the Zodiac were my favorite, and so I was already really drawn to all of that. And I probably was between 8, 9 when I saw one of those little magazines. Like in Brazil, we had this cheap, small magazines that were all about astrology, star signs. It was the whole magazine, and I used to. But then I started consuming, buying those magazines. So I found out my rising sign very early, and I was really wow, I need to know this. But it was it was just this massive feeling of I just need to know this, but I never thought this could be pursued. I never thought this could be a career. I never thought this could be a profession for me. So I forgot about it for it was always in the background. My teenage years, having crush on boys and oh, he's a Libra, and the way I read a good match, and I was always looking at that.
I understand you completely.
Yeah, or sun sign columns, I would read them, and I would be interested. And so and then I had a boyfriend whose mom, she wasn't a professional astrologer, and I had loads of conversations with her, and I was really curious. I wanted to absorb any information she could give me. It was the first time I think I saw my astrology chart as well. She showed me.
That was quite an impact, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was wow, the things that she could tell me and stuff like that. And then, but it was only when I moved to London, really. When I moved to London back in 2008, that I kind of started, because then I learned English as well. And I think, there is a lot more material.
More doors they were opening, and you had access.
There were a lot more good materials in English, good, stuff
completely
written or published. Then in Portuguese at that time, so I dived really deep, and then on my Saturn return was okay. I was thinking I wanted to be an artist. I was thinking I wanted to do all the things I thought I wanted to do, but all I've been doing is to learn astrology and read tarot and do all of these things. So then I decided to take it seriously, and I never looked back.
Yeah, that's the best. But you have some experience in Reiki too. If you like to talk
I
about
am.
this, you can. If not, not,
Yeah.
because I want to
Yeah,
jump on
sure.
our topics.
Sure. I think that was when the transition happened. That was back in 2011
Mm-hmm.
when I decided. So I moved 2008. Took me a few years. The first few years I was just like, I need to learn English. I need to learn English. La, 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 la. And then it was in 2011 that I was like, okay, I feel ready to apply to university, because my goal was always to learn something, to go to university, to
Yeah.
continue my studies
Yeah.
basically. And because I do have a background in history, I wanted to do something practical. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to go into the theoretical, and continue pursuing history. So I decided I wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to apply for arts college and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So 2011 was the year I applied for arts, got rejected, and then when I got the rejection letter, I was like, oh, it didn't work out. What am I gonna do then? And so I had to kind of reshuffle my. This was when I was what, 26, between 26, 27. So it was like the year before, you know 2 years almost before my Saturn return. So I think that's when you have your progressed lunar return,
Mm-hmm.
and you're really beginning to kind of consider who you are,
Yes.
what you actually really want from life, and la la la.
Mm-hmm.
And Reiki was a kind of a necessary step, because it sort of opened a more spiritual door somehow. I don't know. There's something interesting that I think the tutor said, or the people, some of the colleagues, when I did the Reiki training, is that once you get attuned to Reiki, and you do the Reiki workshops and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
your life becomes a bit of a roller coaster. They say that you go through this like 21-day clearing process, and you have this energetic
You activate some
transformations and
things.
etc.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then your life takes a turn. It's like the things that you really meant to do, or the things that you really have to do, it sort of happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that it resonates with what happened to me, because once I did Reiki, then there was a whole shift. I kind of decided to go vegetarian, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a whole there was a whole transformation that kind of happened around that time. And shortly after, I decided to do astrology more seriously. So that was a kind of a little bit of a portal, really. I
Yes.
remember it was
Yes.
really lovely as well to get the Reiki,
Wonderful.
because we practiced on each other. And yeah. Yeah.
I'm absolutely sure you changed the level of, let's say, let's choose my words wisely now. Probably the friends around you started to change. You started to attract
Yeah, the
different type of
vibration.
people. Yes, everything
Yeah,
started to
it
rearrange.
did.
Yes,
Mm,
I think it's the same with astrology. The moment when you start to study profoundly and you go deep,
mm,
some steps start to develop similar with what you
mm.
just described. But depends how serious you are and how deep you want to dive and how much you can handle,
Yeah.
because I think it's more or less, and yes, of course, depends by the transits, what is going on in your chart in that moment and why you
Mm.
decided. And we can stay like this until I have a very familiar feeling about you. That's very strange. I don't want to say more. You
Aw.
know? The
We might
next,
have some interesting interchanges.
who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe you come to
Yeah.
visit us in Germany. It would be really a pleasure.
Nice.
May I ask
Nice.
you how you and
Mm.
Alejo Lopez met? Why? Because my public know him from my last English episode, and you are doing together this wonderful astrology podcast named Out of
Mm.
Bounders since just a few
Yeah.
months. Yes, if I don't wrong.
Yeah.
And can you tell us more about this? What about is it? And
Yeah.
I know, but I want for my public. Where can you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure, of course. Yes, we came up with this little project together, the Out of Bounds Astrology, and then the podcast is one of the things that we're doing together. We did a workshop together as well about the Jupiter Neptune conjunction, which was a little bit more experiential. So we're trying to do something, different. We had this idea that we were like in betweeners. So it was like the main like identity that we have is like we're both from Latin America, but we lived in Europe for many years. So we don't belong here, we don't belong there, and like we're also like in our late 30s, so we're not very young, but we're also not very old. So we're sort of like in between worlds and in between things, and
common point.
And this was
yes.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
this was kind of the idea of like doing this astrology and trying to do something different, something that would reflect our
I like
feelings,
a lot
you know, as
the dialogues and
in between
everything. It's something fresh.
yeah.
It's something different,
Yeah.
and you can apply this type of info. And this is very important because a lot of
Yeah.
people don't see the practical part in astrology and the practical
Yeah.
side, let's say like that. And
Yeah.
somehow you are doing this, and that's why I
Yeah.
want you to describe us a little about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really loving it because we have this conversation, and I love the conversation aspect of it. Like, you know, we pick a topic and we're there talking, or we get an email, you know, someone asking something.
Yes.
So it's really enjoyable. But your original question was how we met.
Yes.
So we met at the MA as well. So Alejo is also doing the MA in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology. And we saw each other in class, like, which is, you know, obviously online.
So directly there. I thought you knew each other from the past, or okay.
No, it's quite recent. I mean, we get along really well, and yeah, we just saw, you know, his face there, and then we started doing so I private messaged him because I felt connected with the things he would share in class.
Yes, yes.
So then we started doing an astrology group, and would like meet, you know, with some of other colleagues and some astrologers as well, like Rob Chang.
Yes.
But then that was during the pandemic, and then I don't know, we kind of decided to do something a bit more consistent together, and yeah, it's wonderful.
And the podcast can be heard where can you be,
right? Yeah, the podcast can be found on Spotify, so Spotify and Anchor FM as well.
I will put down the links for my public.
I mean, really, it's really exciting to do that podcast. We just finished the season 1 now. The last episode was about eclipses, so if you guys are very interested in eclipses, there's some information there. And we're gonna do season 2 from June, and it's gonna be all about advice, you know, astrological advice. Like, we really want to interact more with the public, and we're expecting that people will be, you know, shooting us some questions, and like, even, you know, like I keep thinking about this old columns and old magazines, you know, when people would write and ask for advice, you know, and someone would be answering to questions. So we want to do it more in that format.
Yeah, I think it's a very good idea, and people need answers. People have a lot of questions here too, and as many as we are, and as diverse in our preparation and our background, I think as better it is for astrology to develop and to come with new and fresh perspectives. And it's fantastic. More and more people are interested in my country too. I don't know how it's in Brazil, and it was another question in my head to ask you, what's the perception about the astrology in general? I mean, of course we are all Brazil. Subjective, but yes. How do you feel this?
I think people are very open to astrology in Brazil. I actually feel that people are a lot more open to astrology in Brazil than they are in England, for example, like the general public. And I think that has a connection to culture, because I feel culturally Brazil is just this big melting pot. It's like, you know, because so many immigrants went there, and even the colonization, like everything is like this huge mixture. I think one of the things that defines Brazilian identity is mixture, is plural. It's like being this huge pluralistic, you know, manifestation, and the combination. You know, in mundane astrology, the moon of the chart of a country represents the people, and Brazil's moon is in Gemini, conjoined Jupiter in Gemini, like very tight conjunction. And I think that really represents the, you know, the Brazilian population, because there are this mix match.
That's how they are.
They don't necessarily need, you know, they're like Catholics, but they're also, you know, practicing all their religious rituals, and there's no question. It's not like, oh my God, you shouldn't do this. There's this real plural, I don't know, it's quite interesting, and they're quite funny as well, which I think is a kind of a Jupiter, you know, a Jupiter Gemini thing as well, moon in Gemini, because I think Gemini people are particularly funny as well. But yeah, answering your question, I think for that reason they're very open, and they're embracing open. You know, that's astrology.
Very good. That's very good.
I think they see astrology more as a mystical fortune telling thing as well, like, oh, tell me my future, what do you see in my chart? Whereas in England, people are a bit more rational and they're
More
a little
rational,
bit more
yes.
skeptical.
Yes, the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
differences are between Romania and Germany, where I live now. And here,
yeah,
it's a Libra energy in Germany, and at home it's a Scorpio Aquarius energy. So it's completely
right,
different fragrance. And yeah, we are very curious
yeah,
about this mystic stuff and this occult stuff and this. We are
yeah,
effectively attracted by this, but I think we are born with the possibility to understand probably different this type of energies. And this is, you see,
mm,
the shadow and the light in everything, even in the way how we
mm,
behave. And not only the planets have shadows and lights.
yeah, yeah,
We are in the beginning of the eclipse season, so let's go in the
mm,
topic, because I would be very curious how you would describe from the astronomical point of view these two
mm,
moments: the day of tomorrow, which is
yeah,
the 30th of April, and then 16th of May, when we have these two important moments. And I would invite you to
yeah,
tell us what is going on and why are them so important, and why so many astrologers are talking about these
mm,
two moments.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, eclipse season, it is a particularly important lunation. I do feel like it's, sometimes when people are new to astrology, they get a bit too, like, oh my God, it's eclipse. Well, we have eclipse every 6 months.
Yeah,
It's not like, it's a complete, out of,
yeah,
out of the blue
it's
kind of
not so
happening.
rare. And yes.
No, but there is power to it. I think if we think about the lunations in general, the new moons and the
Mhm.
full moons, they are turning points. And people, the general public, are usually very interested in that because they can see it. It's like the
Yes,
moon is there, they can relate to it. And the moon generally has this connection to our daily rhythms and to our daily lives and to our emotions and our moods and how that
we feel these
fluctuates.
energies. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think the lunar cycles reflect those cycles, those rhythms. Whereas an eclipse, we'll be talking about something that's a little bit larger than the monthly lunar rhythms and the
Hmm.
monthly emotional rhythms that we have. I think there's something a little bit larger and bigger when it comes to the eclipses. And I think symbolically of the eclipses as portals of change, of like closing chapters, and beginnings of new chapters. And we can think about beginnings with the new moons in general and etc., but I
Yes.
think when an eclipse is enhanced, there's
Hmm.
something larger connected to it. So
How would you
and
describe?
especially
Mhm.
yeah.
How would you
No, I
describe?
was just saying.
Yeah. Sorry. Continue the idea. Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
I was just gonna say that especially if you have personal planets being picked up by these, degrees, or if you have a long-term transit. So this new moon eclipse that's happening tomorrow,
Hmm.
is quite close to Uranus. So that means that
Yes.
you have a Uranus transit as well. So if you have a sun in Taurus at 10 degrees, that new moon eclipse is right on your sun, but is also activating that Uranus transit. So it's interesting to look at the whole picture and see, so it's a big change, but it has that flavor as well.
Imagine my
Yeah.
Uranus. It's now close by my ascendant. Very soon, fixed on my ascendant.
Right. Right.
And
Yes, there we
I have a
go.
good feeling about these energies now, and that's why I'm asking, how do you work with such a moment as the moment of
Mhm.
tomorrow? If you have
Mhm.
something, if you have a ritual or something, or if you are doing something, or how you.
Mhm.
And when a client is coming to ask about this, especially from his chart, let's imagine what it means to be born on an eclipse. This is another question which I want
Mm.
to ask.
What is yeah, I mean
Are they
I don't know
different in
how I would
comparing with the others,
interpret.
or how?
I never thought about that, to be honest. I mean, I never noticed
Mhm.
if a client was born in during an eclipse in that from that perspective, because obviously if you're born during an eclipse, you're going to have the sun and the moon, really close to the nodes. Well, both, I guess. If
Mhm.
it's a lunar eclipse as well, if it's a solar eclipse, is a new moon, so they're going to be close to the nodes. What I feel is that there is something quite karmic because we have the nodes involved.
Yes, yes.
So that person and that, will have a very particular um energy there, and the pillars of their personality, which is the sun and the moon, very much connected to their spiritual journey there. There is something relevant there for sure. I would definitely pay attention to it, but I've never really framed in my mind of like, oh, that's an eclipse person, so that
Okay.
means this. But I would definitely consider that in relation to the rest of the chart, that there is something of their journey and the building blocks of their personality, which is the sun and the moon, very closely relating to that, karmic journey that the lunar nodes represent. Yeah.
Because you said about the nodes, I would like to ask you something about this karmic flavor. How to relate with this idea? Because there are different approach here. Some astrology schools don't take in consideration the idea of reincarnation, and others do. What do you think about this delicate topic? How to position ourselves in? Yeah.
I tend to be quite rational. I quite like Lise Green's perspective, which is I don't disconsider, but I also don't know about it. It's like I don't have enough information to go, yes, this is absolute true.
Yeah.
We all have thousands lives, but I also don't have enough information to completely disconsider and say this is bollocks and there's no such thing as past lives. So what I do is like I have seen in my life and in my relationships and my clients as well, that there is relevance to the nodes, that there is something of importance with the nodes when they're involved, especially in synastry, when we have nodal exchanges with personal planets of another person. So I definitely feel that there's something important, but I kind of leave it open for my client to place their belief into it. I say some astrologers use this as past life indicator. Is an interesting perspective, evolutionary astrology, Stephen Forrest, Jeff Green, and Patricia Walsh. I really like their perspective, and I, in fact, Patricia Walsh's book Karmic Complexes is very interesting because she works with regression therapy and the nodes, and so she collected a lot of data basically, and so it's very interesting to look at, but I don't sign up to it. Like I don't 100% say this is it, that's the truth. So I leave it open to my clients, and I say some astrologers consider this past life indicators. I like to see this as a journey of growth. And like the way I see the nodes is a growth that's beyond your personal identity. The sun has to do with growth, but it has to do with that more egocentric or egoic. It's like me in the world, what I have to be as an individual. The lunar nodes is more generational. We're all like during this year, we're all born with the north node in a certain sign, It's like we all share this, this sort of growth towards that direction. So I say it's a growth that's beyond. Is a little bit beyond who we are as an individual.
I like a lot your answer, because some of the professional astrologers which I've met until now, it doesn't matter from where, if from my home or from other countries, officially they don't talk very open about this concept of reincarnation and karma, but in private, the main majority of them, they recognize that there is something there, and some of them they really work with these concepts, and they but you see the way how they put themselves in light in public, it's different. And I guess it's still a big debate. It's a lot of debate all over the world in astrology, and probably we still need to wait until we will all meet in the middle. I don't know what to say about
for sure. I mean, one thing that I find, for example, that I disagree with a lot of the things I see around, is that you have to go to your north node and you have to, it's like, I understand what, like the way I see is like that, especially when we're younger, which is what I've observed, we're very much in the south node, and the south node is what comes really natural. Like this is what I've observed in my life as well. And so because it's such a comfort zone, we also stuck a little bit in the shadow of it. It's like we're like, we're doing it too much, and it's too easy to do that, and we're really stuck in that little place. So as we grow, And this is not a rule of thumb for everyone, because some people have the sun on the north node, for example, or
I completely agree with what you say, because
or
I recognize
the moon on
in
the
what
north node.
I recognize myself in what you describe. Yes, agree.
And then as we grow older, you know, we kind of see, or I don't know if everyone sees, but so I'm going to share my experience. So what I realized is that the more I put myself into the north node, in some ways, the more I challenged myself to go more in that direction, the more the universe kind of opened up, the more I found opportunities, or I had a kind of, it was almost like the universe was like giving the thumbs up somehow, like things would kind of get into a certain flow of some kind, whereas if I really stayed in the south node. So I'm gonna give an example, like a very practical example of this, and I think this happened when, like, by solar arc, my ascendant was right on the south node. So it was a south node experience. So I was probably around 6 years old, and I was cycling in the street, playing with a friend in the streets in Sao Paulo, and we decided to race. Now my south node is in Sag and is in the first house. So I was like, right, let's race, let's see who gets to the bottom of the street first. So I really went into that competition, and I never forgot, because that was my first bike accident ever, and like I had it pretty bad, and I mean, first house was the face, and my face got all,
oh my god,
I had to go to the hospital, my mom had to take me to the hospital, blah blah blah. There were no brakes on the bike, la la la. Now the solar arc ascendant was right there, so I really feel it's a genuine experience of being in that, like, comfort zone, doing the shadow. It's like I was in competition. I wasn't in like, let's go, it's like, let's do it in community, let's put the other person first or something. I just went like, and then I kind of had that backlash.
Oh my god.
So this is a bit of a silly example, but I really feel that there is something there, and every time I put myself first, or I kind of go impulsive, something, there is a kind of a backlash, like I kind of like get a little slap on the face somehow, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to learn, the other side.
Don't interrupt your idea, but I just want to say that we really need to meet, because my south node, it's in Gemini. So look at us. Look what is going on.
Amazing.
Why do you think I had this feeling that, really, I'm not joking, I have such a familiar feeling, and I will not do a secret. Okay, I can cut when I will edit this. If you don't have nothing against, I will let like it is, because I like this spontaneous and natural and alive
too. I'm all about spontaneous.
And I'm absolutely sure you can teach me what I need to learn with my my north node. And yes, and opposite, because some people say that we feel this type of not fear, because it's a big word, but we have a kind of hesitation in following the calling of the north node, because it's an unfamiliar area. We don't have experience there, and we don't know how to handle if and when. And do you think we have this this, in my translation, it means to be conscious about what is going on with you. If we would not know astrology, are we able to follow this calling? What do you think about?
That's a big question.
How do you feel?
I mean,
this?
I feel that astrology is a very useful tool, potentially, but it's a tool. Someone actually made this analogy. I can't remember where I read it or where I saw it, but I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be using this in my classes as well. So basically, a hammer can be a tool that helps you to build a new bed, but it can also kill somebody, if you just hammer them in the head and da-da-da. So I think that's a kind of a way that I see astrology as well. Like, astrology is a tool. So depending on how we use it, it can be tremendously valuable for personal growth, for becoming more tolerant, understanding that people are different, and etc. And they have different needs, genuine different needs. They're not just being, dickheads. So it can be really valuable, but it can also be the other way, where we become very obnoxious and snob, that we hold a knowledge that other people don't, or making the favorites is like, oh, but of course he could only be a Libra. It's like the your personal distastes become a rule, where like every Scorpio is spiteful and da da da, or every Gemini is a bad person. because they never, go through with their commitments and and
These
then it becomes
preconceptions, or how to call them, how to name them, this
and
blocked
then it
ideas.
becomes a kind of a disservice to other people, to each other, and to yourself. So it's got always this, two sides. And also I think it would be too inflated from my side to say that only astrology allows people to be self-aware. I think there are other tools, there are other ways that people can use and can follow to know themselves, and to, I think what changes is something within the person, which we can't measure, we can't know looking at their charts or looking at their faces or knowing where they're from, or there's no clear indication of self-awareness, spiritual, evolution, or whatever it is that you might call. There's no way of measuring that and saying, oh, this person is definitely this, or that person definitely that. But there is something there. Some people are more prone to want to know themselves more honestly than others. And I think, that's like my answers. Like, astrology can be a useful tool as many others.
It can.
But it depends on the person's sort of,
if they know what to do with this. Yes, if they know what to do with it.
Yeah, and the real commitment, because we need to be willing to look at our shortcomings as well, honestly.
Yes.
And vice versa. It's like we need to be willing to look at our gifts and our skills, but also the things that we're like falling short and we're not, without beating ourselves up as well. It's like a fine line, because we can also go all the other way and like not value ourselves, disrespect ourselves. So it's a fine line.
It's a fine line. And because tomorrow is such an intense energy and such a beautiful energy. Well, we are today on the day of 29 of April, and I feel the need to explain this to my public, because when I say tomorrow, they need to know, okay, when it's so tomorrow
when
is
tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the top of the moment, the peak of the moment. Let's say like this. It's a good energy. I was listening a little the last episode between you and Alejo from yesterday. Yesterday it was, or today? I don't.
Yeah, it was.
I think so.
Today's Thursday.
And
today's Friday.
You were describing.
Wednesday,
Yes, you were describing a little about this beautiful energy, because it's about Venus and about Jupiter. And why?
Yeah.
What would you advise? The people who are listening now.
Sure, I would definitely. I mean, if you're listening to this, you're interested in astrology and you probably know your chart a little bit. Place that eclipse into your chart. See where in your chart that's, more planets in your chart, what configurations in your chart is being activated. But I would say there is something there that, is ending, and you're ready to take a step towards this new way, towards this new phase of your life, towards something there. So facilitate there. Be the midwife of yourself. This is like one of the things, like, be the midwife of your own new life, of your own, facilitate that process by being gentle with yourself, doing self-care, etc. Placing yourself in situations, if you can, placing yourself in situations that are nourishing and nurturing to you, because there's a new moon as well. But pay attention to what comes up. Is a perfect new moon eclipse for letting go, for forgiving, for because of that Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So there is an exact Venus-Jupiter conjunction at 27 degrees Pisces. It is the degree of exaltation of Pisces in traditional astrology. So it's very powerful.
It is.
And and it's the ruler of that new moon as well, because it's in Taurus. So that, Jupiter, Venus in Pisces is really powerful. So artwork, meditation.
It's a very romantic time.
Dancing. It could be very romantic as well.
Yes.
But really about letting go of the grudges. Letting go of the old, healing some of the coarse personalities in our minds, like that that criticizes us too much, or that, I don't know, there's something there, and placing that into your chart will give you a clue of where is it, or what is it that you could focus on, what kind of a healing you could focus on.
I'm absolutely sure my public will do that. The main majority of them, they are very, very active, and they are putting a lot of questions. And I'm really happy to have this chance to interact and to. Another curiosity of mine, which is coming since long time, I have this, but I can't say I've met until now someone with who to talk about this topic, and I was not telling you that I intend to ask you this. So I hope you will be not very surprised or shocked. Or,
I like surprises.
I would like to know more from you, if it's possible, about the famous Sabian symbols.
Right.
This is something, for me at least, not very clear. Let's say that I had some lectures about this and I was reading some things about this, but it's still not clear. And I would like, imagine that I'm in the first class in the school and I really want you to tell me what it is, this energy, and how to work with this. Yeah. What does it mean?
Yeah. Well, I think was Alejo who was sharing it, because we were talking about the Sabian symbols. Yes. I think it was on our Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, because I do like the Sabian symbols. I do like to have a look at the Sabian symbols, especially for new moons and full moons, because we have a specific degree of the zodiac. So the Sabian symbols is basically giving you some like riddles, because sometimes they're like a bit weird. You're like, what does that mean? Like, the woman in the flower market blowing bubbles, and you're like, what does that mean?
That's what I'm asking.
A lot of the times it's almost like the I Ching as well. Like when you read, some of the guidances from the I Ching, and you're like, oh, hold on, like, what do you mean building a bridge above water? And then you have to kind of have a bit of a symbolic way of thinking when you're interpreting them. And that's exactly what I like about them, is to get like my imagination, going with this, idea of the symbols having specific images for it. But according to Alejo, because I'm not so much the person that really look into the exact, things. I haven't done a huge deal of research into the Sabian symbols to know their origins and, who invented and etc. But according to Alejo, I don't know if it was Mark Jones, or I can't remember, he said a name of an astrologer that worked with a psychic in like early 20th century or something. And they decided, because the zodiac has, all of these different degrees, you've got 30 degrees for each star sign, that each degree would be, will be different. Each degree will be unique in some way. So they did work together. The psychic, there were like cards or something that they were pulling, and she would come up with these visions for the Sabian symbols. This is what Alejo shared, if I remember well. I might be, embellishing a little. But I do have a Dane Roger book with the Sabian symbols, which is usually what, if I have my books around me, which is rare nowadays, but when I do have my books, that's what I consult, to have a look and to talk about in relation to lunations. So cutting the story short, don't know much about the history or the origins of how they came up, but I love these little images to help us stretch symbolism and think symbolically when it comes to the full moons, new moons, eclipses, and etc.
I'm just curious, what kind of information do they give to you? How you use them, when you use them?
I think, I think they give me feelings.
Okay.
So they give me feelings about a specific cycle. So, for example, I don't use Sabian symbols for client work. I won't look at someone's chart and say, okay, you're 26 degrees, Pisces sun, a woman blowing bubbles in the market. Like I don't really look at it in that way. But when it comes to lunations or general transits like the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, it happened at 23 degrees Pisces. So I was more interested to look, okay, what does that mean? It's like, give me an extra clue. It's like detective work. It's like, what extra clue can I have to give an interpretation for the public, when I write a little post on my social media or something. So it's more of a stretching the imagination and creating a sense of a feeling around what this cycle is about. So for instance, the new moon tomorrow, so the solar eclipse tomorrow, this Saturday on the 30th, is a woman is sprinkling flowers. I mean, that gives a very hopeful feeling.
Yeah, it's a good energy. It's like, I feel...
Sounds quite beautiful. Yeah, sounds quite beautiful, right? Like, absolutely. You picture a woman is sprinkling flowers. I mean, what a nice vision.
Yeah.
What a nice feeling, right? And then I looked into the 27 degree Pisces, and I mean, with Sabian symbols you have to look at the next degree because it starts with 1. It doesn't start with 0, so it goes 1 to 30.
Yes, it's 1 later.
So when I looked at the 27 degree, which is where the Jupiter Venus conjunction is, the other image was a fertile garden under the full moon.
Aww.
Now,
super.
What another beautiful image is that?
What else to wish for tomorrow? Then it's already heaven.
There is something about sprinkling flowers. There's something about sprinkling seeds. There's something about a fertile ground, a fertile garden, cultivating a garden. A garden is not a wild forest. It's not all the things growing,
Yes.
exponentially without supervision. A garden is something that we actually intentionally choose to grow. So this is how I use the Sabian symbols, is to stretch symbolism and to look into, so this, lunation cycle, this new moon eclipse is all about sprinkling flowers, cultivating something intentionally, cultivating something. What do you want to see growing in your garden? Because the time right now is fertile. We have a Jupiter-Venus conjunction in Pisces. Yes. Powerful, that's the signature of that new moon solar eclipse. So what do you want to see multiplying in your life, And I think the Sabian symbols can be helpful in that way. Yeah.
There are people who are saying at home, and I'm not very sure if this is a good information or not, or if I understood well from the friends with who I was talking about. Between a solar eclipse and a moon eclipse, like we have now, people usually are calm. They don't start anything. They just try to feel as better as they can this wave of energy. If it's a kind of internal analyze, I don't know, you just try to know which is the direction. I don't know if this is happening at every 6 months with the people who I've talked considering this topic, if they are doing this regularly, but probably especially now, because maybe intuitively we feel that it's a big shift, and we feel it's something important, and probably we feel that depends what type of seeds we will plant, it's growing what it's planted. Are you doing the same, this type of analyze in between these two moments, sun and moon eclipse? Or
I think what I the way I see is like, I don't really follow rigid rules. So there isn't like a rule that works for all. So whenever you see people, astrologers saying certain things like Mercury retrograde, do not do this, or absolutely do that, or I think it all depends. Like, I have natal Mercury retrograde, and I do enjoy Mercury retrograde. I love to look into my diaries and my journals and see what I wrote over the years, or edit things, write things. I feel quite, I don't feel awful. I find that it's a bit personally, I find it's a bit difficult for a rule to work for everyone at all times. And in fact, astrology is about interpretation, and astrology needs context, and astrology, so for some people, this new moon eclipse is culminating, is happening, is is reflecting a new beginning, an actual new beginning. So for these people to listen to an astrologer say absolutely don't start anything because the eclipse is a time of non-starting, they're gonna be really scared. They're gonna be like, oh my god, but I am starting a new job. Trust the cycles of your life. Like, again, personally, trust the cycles of your life. If there is a new beginning happening, actual new beginning happening, then that's the right thing for you, and you follow that. As if something feels wrong, then you should look into that. If it feels wrong, not if someone told you, an astrologer said that you're never gonna get married and you're not gonna have, if you have children during eclipses, bad luck, not if someone else told you. If it feels that there is something wrong, I feel we somehow raised in a society, or multiple societies, where emotional intelligence is not valued, where being embodied is not taught. So we don't know how to feel our bodies and how to feel our instincts and how to follow our feelings and our intuitions. And it's really important for us to reconnect with that.
Yes.
So I am moving to Greece on the day after of a new moon solar eclipse. I'm literally doing that, like a new beginning.
Exactly.
Absolute new beginning.
Look,
and
so you're not following that rules.
I didn't pick that date because there was an eclipse. It sort of happened.
It just happened.
And I just and I just feel really
comfortable with this.
Blessed. I feel blessed that I actually am doing in tandem with the cosmos. It's like it feels right.
Yes.
It basically feels right to me. So it really depends where you're at in your life and what's going on for you. So if it's a time of reflection for you, then go for it. If suddenly you got a promotion that you've been asking for, that you've been waiting for, and you're starting on a day of an eclipse, well, then that's the right thing for you. Is reflective of your cycles, of your unique process, and embrace that. Yes. Eclipses are about change and new beginnings, and that can be brewing something internally, or that can be something out there in your life, and it doesn't have to be one or the other.
I like a lot how you describe everything, because some friends of mine, and not the ones who know me since many years, they are a lot of people, when they hear that you are an astrologer, or at least you want to become, they think, oh my god, they are planifying in detail every step in their life, and they can control in detail everything, and they have access to this wisdom, and they know how to be good. And it is not at all like this, because that was the next normal natural question. How much do you use astrology in your own life? If you would analyze 1 year, I mean, and when or how?
I mean, obviously I am aware of the outer planets, for example, because they move so slowly. I am aware that Pluto's at 28 degrees in Capricorn, that Pluto's in the late degrees of Capricorn, etc. That's, something that I don't really forget. It's really unforgettable. But like this eclipse, I mean, I didn't know that there was an eclipse when I decided, when I was talking to my partner and we said, okay, let's go to Greece. All right, when are we gonna go? We're we're still having a tendency here in this house. All right, so what if we give 3 months in advance? What if we tell him in 4 months advance? Yeah, that feels right. Yeah, that feels right. And then we decided, and the funny thing is as well,
the last step you check the transits.
And the funny thing as well is that this eclipse happens to fall on his Venus. And his Venus is in the 7th house. So it's a lot about relationships, a lot about the partner. Here I am, and we kind of decided that time. Like, it wasn't something that I calculated. I looked at it and I was like, if I ever have children, I'm never going to be like, okay, so when is it going to be the best time for this? I mean, it's a bit insane, really, to try and control everything like that, I think there is beauty in the natural world, in the in nature, how things happen naturally, and the acceptance of natural cycles and natural things.
Absolutely.
So yes, I am aware to a certain extent. Obviously, I know that Neptune is going to oppose my Venus, or I know that, but I'm not like micromanaging my life based on the on the planets, like, oh, moon is going to Aries, so I need to put my slippers on because I'm going to step on a nail or something.
What you describe is a kind of paranoia. I guess people who are going on this extreme, it's really dangerous, and please don't do it.
No. Yeah, it's a bit uncomfortable. It's like, trust a little bit as well. Yes. Like, if you look at astrology enough, you can see that there is wisdom in the cycles. The cycles happen.
Exactly.
They're there, and there is a kind of, I think difference is to, I think it was, what's his name? John something. I follow him on Twitter. He wrote something and I was like, oh yes. He said, the movements of the planets, so the cycles, are like the wind and the tides and the waves. And astrology is just knowing how to navigate it. So it's definitely something that's uncontrollable. It's a force of nature. And we kind of navigate with it. We don't...
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And now it's coming absolutely natural as the cherry on the top of the cake. Do you believe in free will? And how much free will do we have if you think from the astrological perspective point of view?
That's a great question, isn't it? That's a big question as well. Yes. As a Westerner, I definitely believe
everything you want, what you are in this moment.
I do believe in free will, because we are utterly responsible. I mean, not absolutely responsible, because there are certain things that are beyond our control. Where we were born, the family that we're born into, the opportunities that we have in life, early in life, the kinds of schools that we went to, etc. Well, these things are kind of beyond our control, right?
Yes.
But I do believe that we have responsibility to create our lives as well. We are responsible for our lives. And I think this is one of the key understandings and elements, in anything, in psychology, in therapy work, and, is to take responsibility for our lives, for our choices, for, how we are like co-creating everything that's happening to us. And, it's not that I don't believe that there are no victims. Of course, there are things that, happens to us as utterly unfair, to say the least, and horrible in some cases as well, and it's not that you're responsible for that, but we have to take responsibility. We have to grab life by the balls and say, okay, how do I want my life to go? How do I want to create my life, rather than be like, oh, but I always, like, every man that I am with end up being a drunk, and and I don't know, like, why is this happening to me? Is because of my Mars in Pisces. And it's like, well, you could also be an artist, and you could work in charity, and you could, there are lots of other ways that you could channel this energy. It doesn't have to be in that way. It doesn't have to be in the other way. You can master certain elements. But with all of that said, there is a mystery as well in some things that kind of happen, and we we have no control whatsoever. Like, and I think that there is a dimension of life that is connected to fate. But we need to choose. And so I don't know what the measure is.
I don't believe someone can say very transparent in this moment a final conclusion about if we have, and how much, and when it's activated, when not, and when are we conscious about what we are doing and when not. It's a very complex topic. But I'm very curious, every astrologer, how is thinking about and what's the conclusion until now, because a lot of I don't know if as older as we become, probably we are tempted to believe that we don't have so much free will as we believe when we are young. I don't know what to say, because my intuition is telling me that the quantity is decreasing.
I don't know.
Or if we can go out from what it's written in our charts in the moment of our birth.
I mean, we can, isn't it? I love Liz Green's perspective, because the idea is that you can't send your chart back, which is something that she said in quite a few lectures. Your chart is your chart, and that's what you have to work with. But also, unconsciousness is, if we're driven by unconsciousness and compulsions, and then we call it fate. It's like, oh, I was fated to this, but it's just that you're not really looking into a pattern of yours deeply enough, perhaps, and then you're calling that a fate. It's like, oh, I end up in a very unhappy marriage and it wasn't my fault. And it's like, well, you made a choice, and it was similar to your dad, or is repeating something from your childhood, from your past, and it felt familiar, and so you went for it. But there was, I guess there wasn't a choice, because you were just unconsciously driven.
Yes, absolutely.
So becoming conscious is a way of being able to have more choice.
Absolutely agree.
The more conscious we are, the more we can make choices.
I just want to ask you if you can recommend some books, some authors for my public, and for all the levels, because it's a mixed public. So
sure.
Please.
I do love Sue Tompkins, the Contemporary Astrologer's Notebook. This is basic, and this is like a big sort of consulting, like a cookbook in astrology type of thing. And I think it's really good, really practical, no nonsense, very good for you if you're learning the building blocks. Obviously, I love Liz Green, absolutely love Liz Green, and so for me, all of her books have given me amazing insights. For all, I guess I got into Liz Green after I've learned a bit. Like I
Mhm.
didn't step into, reading Liz Green straight away.
It's not easy
I think
to be understood if you don't have a base.
yeah,
Yes,
if
it's
you
not
don't have
easy.
the basics,
Mhm.
but it's definitely really, I really recommend all of her books. Perhaps the one on Neptune, because we're having that Jupiter Neptune conjunction.
Yes.
So it's an interesting one to read it. But I really love her books. Like the Chart and Manifestation is a really amazing one as well, about transits, progressions. The priest, the counselor, the astrologer, the priest, and the counselor
yes.
is an amazing
It's
one
an
as
amazing.
well. That
Yes.
talks about the profession of us,
Mhm.
how we carry certain expectations as an astrologer, and she looks into astrologers' charts as well, which is also quite interesting. And she talks about how our astrology is always going to be based on our worldview as well, which I think is amazing, because a lot of us as an astrologer, we think that we're doing the astrology as if it's just one thing, and we're sort of disconnected from it as well, you're doing it through your perspective,
Yes.
through your belief
Yes.
system. And Oh, I love The Moment of Astrology by Jeffrey Cornelius as well. Amazing. And this one, you need to have a little bit of an understanding of astrology already. But it goes more into the theories of it as well. And I loved it because it's all about astrology as divination. And
Yes.
I really, it was amazing. Yeah, it was really amazing to read that one as well. Howard Sasportas is amazing as well. Frank Clifford, Getting to the Heart of Your Chart is a really good one for you if you're beginning as well, like how to bring the chart together. I really like that as well. Yeah, I think those ones for now, but there are loads of others. Yeah,
wonderful, and I think it's already a long list. Just to have time to cross to all of these titles. I want to thank you a lot, and I really hope we will meet again, because Alejo told me next time we will meet all three together, and I really hope
that would be fun.
Now I force him. Now indirectly I force him. I put pressure now on both of you, and I wish you a wonderful trip in Greenland. Greenland. Did I say it in English or in German language? Because I don't know anymore.
Into Greece. Yeah,
into Greece, Greenland. It's in Germany. Yes, and I wish you really all the best, and to start a new something, I don't know, on your heart as you wish and as you want. And it was a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, likewise. It was really great. All the best for you too, Patricia. Thank you for the invitation.